Like, I was good at product, but the thing is, the one thing I was good at allowed me to cover for so many mistakes in the other areas. And you know what the biggest mistake was? Why I was bad at all those other things? Is because I tried to do them. That's what made me bad. Is that I didn't realize that you're a fucking awesome product guy. That's all you should do. And you need to find somebody else to say, like, I'm giving you the best product for recruiting for a small business. Why can't you sell it? It took me way too long to come to that epiphany that other people had to do that for me.
And you think that that's been your chief success as far as the product has kept you?
No, I think that, once we start bringing in all these different people who run different parts of it, then yeah, like, we can have a great product, but a marketing person needs to be able to increase the number of leads and so forth.
Was that your first big hire, marketing?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look at this, but anybody who answers that question by saying that they're good at a lot of stuff, like, you don't even want to talk to them after the show.
Okay, so you have some success. You go and raise, how much was your first round?
I don't know if it's success. Oh, we only raised,
balls to raise money.
We only raised 700. We only raised 700K.
700K is a big nut in this town. So like, what was the outward signaling? Or
so what happened was, so we had amassed a decent number of customers at that point, and there's a guy named Paige Craig who was he's an angel investor, lives in Los Angeles. He had a company called Better Works, and
how'd you get that connected? Was that somebody here, or just went out and reached out?
No, and that's a great thing with SaaS, right? You get word of mouth, and people just sign up.
So it was user base.
Yeah, like who was it? Al Jazeera signed up to try our service yesterday. You know what I mean? Or today, rather. Like it just happens.
That's an Al Gore company now, though.
Yes, that's okay.
I think that's what happened because we're here, right? We're trying to close it. ABC. Wow, I can feel the cobwebs starting to form my brain.
No. So you went out and raised 700.
Yeah. So Paige was using the product, he loved it.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that I learned very early, I don't mind doing this. I don't know if there's any investors in here, but you learn the difference between a risk investor and an opportunity investor. You learn it immediately. A risk investor is somebody who, when you tell them your idea and they're thinking about investing in you, they spend so much time worrying about the things that'll go wrong. An opportunity investor maybe won't even invest in you, but they'll sit down and think about how this could be something awesome. Yeah. And I had spent so much time in Pittsburgh dealing with risk investors that we were just like, fuck it, we're just gonna put our heads down and we're gonna try to build the business on our own. Paige, this is an angel investor. He had a 2-hour conversation with me on a Saturday. He connected me on LinkedIn, said, I think I can help you guys. He asked me about the business, he asked me about my character. He wrote me an email afterwards and he said, I'm gonna invest in you guys. And I'm gonna connect to you. Yeah, because he said I'm gonna think about it. But that's when you start to learn phrases like commit versus soft circle, And he gave me a quick crash course in terms of how to have the conversations with investors moving forward. So if you ever hear me talk about how to use lingo to talk to investors, again, I had to learn it from somebody.
Did he sense that you didn't know the vernacular? Is that why he offered was so forthcoming?
No, I think that something I pride myself in. It's going to sound weird when I use this. There's a level of it's not condescension, but there's a level of don't just assume people know stuff. Go the extra mile and give details. Instead of him just saying, I'm going to connect you to my network and you're going to raise money. No, he sat down, he didn't sit down, but he talked to me about the fact that, at the end of these conversations, right, if they're excited, you got to ask them, are they willing to do a soft circle, right? Or are they willing to do a commit? Yeah. Since you know what those mean, soft circle means somebody at the end of a call, somebody's saying, I think maybe I'd put in 100K, I'm not sure. Commit means they're saying, yeah, I'll put 200K in. Boom, And generally speaking, it's a dick move to commit and then back off of it because, if you're running around telling people, I only have this much left because I already have I have $500,000 committed, and that person steps out, you can try to flame them a little bit if you start to get some gravitas in the and word gets around too, yeah. So Paige, he introduced me to that. He connected me with basically a ton of people because he was very, very well connected by email. And he sent out basically an email to, 80 different firms or something anonymously. And then we just started getting the inbound, right? And
so now you're in fundraising mode versus product mode, right?
Yeah. Which, one of the key things you got to learn about fundraising is nobody wants to invest in somebody who, quite frankly, nobody wants to invest in somebody who is talking to them as if they're begging or they're just like, the greatest thing you could do for me is invest in you kind of have to sound like we're doing this, we're going through a brick wall without you, but if you want to come on board, you can. And I think that was a skill that, it's kind of funny, it's like, over the course of my time raising money for that Series A round, I picked up on my cadence, and now like I could right after this I could sit down and I could pitch an investor, and like that's just like built into me now, and a lot of it is kind of like and I think you're going to realize that's also business development. Like somebody comes to you and they say they want to buy your company or whatever, right? You say like, no, you act pretty confident and cocky. On the back of your mind, you're thinking like, shit, this would be a great deal. But it's all about the facade you have to create.
So how many pitches did you have to do, or how many conversations to get that?
Wow, both times it's about 30 pitches to get down to your pool. Yeah. You got to do a lot. And I think the other thing I think people don't realize is that, like for example, Rincon looks at, I think they say looked at 7,000 businesses in their history, 7-year venture fund, 1,000 businesses a year they've invested in, I think 14. Yeah. Right. So sometimes you don't realize how lucky you are to be able to create enough momentum, get enough social proof from somebody like Paige to be able to raise money.
Timing and what's sexy out there.
Yeah, and the other thing too, that it's almost like I'm trying to think, I like to try to say funny. It's almost like you're going on a bunch of dates where at the end of the date, the person's saying, the next time we go on a date, we're going to have sex. and most of those ladies, or men, depending on who you are, the next time you call them up, they say they don't want to go on a date anymore. So in other words, they always leave that first call with you real excited, like they're real excited or whatever. But then they start crunching numbers. Like for us early on, and I think that's why it got easier for us, is we proved that the SMB market needs a recruiting solution. People thought, no, they're using Craigslist or whatever else. And now if you kind of take a look at around like sales, a lot of people are getting into HR now. So we were very early.
Okay. Yeah. So that was your first round. So you had some traction. You got hooked up with some of the more well-known names in Web 2.0. And then...
Well, the funny thing about that is you're not that far away from talking to... Like, I've had conversations with Paul Graham. I've had conversations with David Cohen.
Who's from Pittsburgh, by the way?
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. You're not that far away from these people if they feel like you're actually doing something, right? And also, if you're not... if you want to talk to me, I'm not a magical person, like... What's that thing? They call it the magical Negro. I'm not I'm not gonna have some story or some magical hey, here's a formula for you to be an entrepreneur too. Like, what do you want to
Did you talk to Paul for investment, or were you applying to YC or?
No, I asked him about giving Resumator for free for 6 months to all of his companies, just putting that deal together. Okay, that was some biz dev stuff I did I didn't know it was called biz dev. I kind of did. I didn't have a business degree, but I knew business after 10 years, but I didn't think of it as biz dev deals or whatever, right?
Are you still highly in touch with your product?
Our product's languished a little bit because
fundraising.
Yeah, because I was fundraising recently, but we're back at it now. So we're at a point now where we've checked off all the boxes. We're very, very competitive. To give you an idea, I don't know, how many of you guys even know how many of you don't really know why the hell have we been sitting up here?
Say that a different way, because I would raise my hand if you said it.
All right. Do you guys know what we've accomplished? What our company's accomplished?
Not exactly. Can you explain it, please?
All right. So we built a recruiting software solution 4 years ago that today is used by a ton of really great companies like Atari, Pinterest, Instagram. Both presidential campaigns used us for all of their hiring in the last election. And a whole bunch of other really, really cool companies as well have used us. And Salesforce.com just recently invested in us.
So I knew all that. I just don't actually know how you guys make it easier, if that makes sense.
Because everybody's using email, or they're using email, they're using some shitty ATS system. We give them basically, think about the most easy to use piece of software for handling the task of recruiting that you can imagine. That's kind of our goal. And it's specifically designed for people who have no idea how the recruiting process works.
But the part of this is what's the difference between your stuff and Dice or Monster?
Those are job boards. So job boards get you traffic, but they don't do anything to help you actually manage. Here's 5 people.
So it's
Here's what
workflow management for the hiring management.
Yeah, it's the workflow management for actually hiring them that we do.
So Taleo does that?
Taleo does that. We crush Taleo. If you
Why
post
do you crush?
demo, if we do a demo versus a demo, we're going to beat Taleo.
Why?
Period.
Why? Who cares? I mean, what?
Because Taleo was built last century. Like real talk. It was built last century. They go for big enterprise customers. They've customized a lot of things, and their pricing is they have I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of employees that they have to pay.
Yeah.
So from a pricing standpoint, from a product standpoint, we basically we're just more modern. The same way Workday is starting to beat the ass of PeopleSoft.
Yeah.
It's just that PeopleSoft.
So you're committed to always being the bleeding edge of this space? Because HR is not sexy, right? I mean, it's,
No, not at all.
I mean, who cares? But you've made it
Well,
fun and
actually,
sexy.
well, that's not true. Actually, I think it is sexy whenever you're where we're at, because the companies that we get to work with, they're not on autopilot.
Yeah.
They don't have 10 hiring managers just hire a bunch of people. Like we have Hootsuite, right?
Yeah.
Which went from 20 to 240 people with our product. Every single person they hire is like the most awesome person they've ever met because we're part of watching companies get formed, right? Like these companies are actually going from 5 people to 250 people in our platform. Those are exciting hires for those companies.
So you just touched on something that I think differentiates you too, is that the end result that they're going after, their close, culture is pervasive and super important. Do you touch on that more than, let's say, a Taleo, or, I mean, can you impact that? Because a person that's being hired by Twitter, Pinterest, or Instagram, like,
Yeah.
they have so many more opportunities than somebody that's...
Well, I think the way we do it is we make it easier for those people to source people through social networks, through referrals. But the value prop really is there's a ton of people out there who have a full-time job and they don't have time to read the manual, and they don't have time to deal with a clunky system that they don't understand how to use. And we've kind of made it where people come in and it's kind of like Apple-esque for recruiting. Everything just works. It's very, very intuitive. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just my ability to kind of polish a product.
Okay.
But I like to say there's a lot of things that we've innovated in terms of our space that are dumb when you think about them. Like being able to view the resume in its original format. Like that didn't exist before we did it. Like they would just strip the text out and dump it in. Yeah, just strip it out and just dump it in. You had to hope that the bullets, those asterisks, those are bullets. It's just little stuff like that we started doing early on because it just made sense.
Okay.
But those guys, they got these big multi-million-dollar contracts. There's no reason for them to change.
Yeah. All right, so you got money from Rincon first round, your seed round,
Yep.
and then follow on?
Yep.
And they're not based here?
No.
Did they ask you to move?
Well, here's the thing, right? Whenever I raised my first round, 3 of the people in that round never met me before. Those are opportunity investors.
Yeah.
They had never met me. All they did was just go off of our traction, off of our revenue, off of testimonials from other people, and they invested in us. So say that again?
Rincon's based in Santa Barbara, which is
Yep.
one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yes.
And that guy's deep and has a huge network. And you stayed here, why?
Who's deep?
Rincon, I mean, that guy,
Oh, yeah,
your emails hooked you up with.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's Paige. That's the
Paige,
he's from
okay.
John Greathouse. He was. How many of you guys know what GoToMeeting is? Yeah. So John Greathouse was the CFO at GoToMeeting. I think he was employee number 5, 6, or 7 or something there. He started off as their sales guy up to the CFO. The big reason they got acquired by Citrix for $240 million is because of John. So he's on our board. He believes in recurring revenue businesses. I think what was interesting was they had this philosophy that they invest in companies that are in Southern California, and we were the only one that was outside.
So I mean, what did he ask you to move?
It's kind of like this. I think we very early on said if moving is one of the requirements for you investing, then we don't want to do it.
So Santa Barbara's 75 all the time.
Yes.
And ridiculously good looking women.
Yes.
What made you dig your heels in and say, did he ask you to move?
No, I mean, a good investor will, quite frankly, I think, broach the subject in a polite manner.
So he did.
Yeah.
What made you dig your heels in? Why Pittsburgh?
I didn't want to move to California right now.
Let's go.
It's just, that's a lot of uproot.
How many, what was your account at the time?
Wow. 3 still?
What are you at now?
35.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were 3 people in April 2011,
Yeah.
and now we're 30 some people.
Okay.
Whatever.
Do you use Taleo to help you hire those people?
I do one of those.
Wait a minute, what kind of question was that? No, he's no software. Out of here. What's that?
3 to 30 in 2 years. Where's most of the growth been?
Blacksburg?
You mean in terms of people?
Yeah.
Probably mostly engineering, but not by much. It's like whenever you go from nobody to a team, usually there's like 5 or 6 people in every single team that you gotta start to fill out. So recently it's been sales and engineering.
So you scaled up big, you raised 2.5, one of them Salesforce. Who is your us now? Besides your team, who are your stakeholders here? Aside from your investors?
Birchmere.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Sean Emirati and Birchmere Ventures is like, what I like about them is local investors who are risk investors, and Sean's great at recruiting. Like Sean sold his company, he sold their company Amscook, their LinkedIn a long time ago. So he's been instrumental in helping us basically just we're trying to fill out our VEEPs and C roles,
Okay.
as much as we can. And he's been great in finding
They came in this round, right?
Yeah, he's great at finding. They led the round in terms of finding bona fide rock stars.
Okay.
So that's been.
Are you finding them here?
Yeah, they're harder to find. I think the interesting thing about California is there's a ton of people there who were number 9 at a company, or number 30. And the company exited, and they took like $2 or $3 million out, and they paid their kids' school off, maybe even their house, and now they're on a real win, right? There's not a lot of people like that up here. Like a lot of people up here, they make good money, but you know what? They make good money, and that is going into the cost of their house. Like their risk tolerance is not there. So you got to find people in all of that who have that risk tolerance.
Okay. So part of your hiring profile is a higher risk
Oh,
than what's average around.
Yeah, to give you guys an example, I walk in, and one of the first questions I ask people is, most of the time I say, what if I told you we lose money every single month? And people who say, well, I'd want to know this, this, and this, typically you're off on the wrong foot.
Do you lose money every month?
Yeah. Look at it this way, if I made money every single month, my investors would kill me.
Right.
That'll be in my book, This is Ridiculous. Try putting projections together when you're trying to raise money that show you're profitable. Because they're going to say if you're profitable, you don't need our money.
Right.
So you're sitting there, you're trying to be optimistic, and you're like, oh, we got to put some pessimism in. It's tough.
Does that make sense, everybody here? Good.
It makes no sense. We know how to turn a dollar into a dollar and some change, right? So we'll double down on that all day long. So.
Did you have, aside from Sean, the guys at Birchmere Labs, did anybody here get what you were doing, and did you have to push them away? Was there competition around?
This is fun. I like this because I'm going to speak freely about here are the dumb things. I never forget, there was somebody, he knows who he is, came into my office when it was just me, and told me that I should sell my company for $2 or $3 million and try to start something else. That was the first time I ever met him.
Okay.
I didn't even know this guy.
What was this? When you were still just out of Alpha?
This was when I was in the RCI building.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
No, was there anybody here that
Yeah.
got it but didn't come in?
If I were to speak freely, I would say whenever I started out, I think the people at Innovation Works believed in me and the idea.
yeah.
But outside of that, quite frankly, no. I think that there's other investment funds around here and so forth. See ya. There's other investment funds and so forth around here. No, if you guys gotta go, I just talk all day. There's other investment funds around here, but quite frankly, I felt like we were throwing up numbers to be worthy of an angel check or a small check. Nobody cared at the time, So not to be a dick about it, but people trying to step up to the plate the second time, not interested. You want to go with people who believe in you whenever you are showing a lot less evidence. You don't want people who want to jump on your gravy train once you've established yourself, because that means they're not ride or die for you. Because even whenever they think you're on a gravy train, it's going to go down, and those are the people that beat you up in board meetings, you know. And you're like, well, wait a minute, you know, I thought you were on our side. No, we were on the side of somebody who's a winner. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll be a winner, but you don't seem to want to be on the side of productivity. I'm very cynical. It's 4 years of cynicism around business.
Realistic,
So.
and that's actually a pretty pragmatic way to look at this whole thing. It's
But,
harder than merit.
but also, just so you know, I mean, one of the things for me is I want to try to build Resumator to be a successful company.
What's that mean? Wait, what does successful company mean?
All of our employees have good jobs at either in a publicly traded company or some other situation.
Okay.
Right? We have, in an ideal world, we've brought a big company to Pittsburgh of some kind, right, to create more jobs. There's a great return on investment for our shareholders. Like if my shareholders are happy, you know, if my investors are happy, I'm probably happy too.
Okay.
So it's things like that that I think make us a big deal.
Okay.
And then, you know, from there, I feel like that'll give me the bully pulpit to say, hey, you know what? And I think that was an interesting thing because before Birchmer came in, we almost raised our second round with no Pittsburgh investors.
Yeah.
And you know,
still on that network of the first round?
Yeah, and I think we're still, I mean, we still don't know if we're going to be what we're going to be, but I think if we are successful, that'd have been a crying shame if we're sitting here right in Pittsburgh and, you know, we don't even have a Pittsburgh investor, which, by the way, quite frankly, Pittsburgh wasn't helping me with that. Like, I'm on the phone with people and they're saying, well, why would we invest in you if no one in your backyard will?
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, that's hard. It makes it hard for you. So I'm going to open up to the floor right now. Go ahead.
You start to say something about when you interview someone, you ask them how they'd react if you tell them, we keep losing money. And can you say what you want to hear? Or?
Yeah, I want to hear them say, I would expect that because you're, you know, a startup. Or they would say like, okay, well, you know, as long as we're trying to figure out a way to make more money. In other words, it's like, it's not really about that answer. It's about how much they probe afterwards. I've had people who've come in and they've asked me, you know, the first question they ask is, what's your burn rate? And the first thing I think is, who hurt you? Like, what startup did you work for that disappointed you, right? And the other thing I do too is I look people in the eye and say, if you're going to work, you got to trust me. You got to trust my ability to spend money in a way that doesn't have you lose your job because we ran out. That's just the belly of the beast. If you don't trust me, then you shouldn't work here, you know? And you know, there's a lot of questions that we ask around that. I try to gauge a lot of stuff around people's risk tolerance because that's really, really important. Or if I might say to somebody, what if I told you that you're going to be trained up on how to do your job for 30 days, and then the next 30 days will be completely different. Or we'll hire salespeople and say, we don't have a training manual, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. But if you want to work here, you can, but just recognize that this is not, you know, ADP. You're not going to like sit down and the big book of how to sell our product is there, right? We might even say like, we're not even sure if what we're going to have you do will work or not. You know, so you just have to like, you gotta like punch home, like this is not, you are not getting, like people like, we're not a rocket ship, right? No, I'm sorry, we're not a rocket ship that's going like this, I mean, that's going straight up. We're waving, like we got an engine, you know, firing, you know, it's like it's misfiring and so forth, you know? Like you're gonna be the person who fixes that, you know? But you know what? If we don't fix it together, we probably won't be able to break Earth's orbit. And what do you think will happen then when all the rocket fuel burns out? We're gonna tilt and we're all gonna crash and we're gonna be, and then our insurance, and we're all gonna be on unemployment. Are you down with that? You know, if a person's not down with that, you know, like it's not an elegant story.
Do you get no's?
Did I get what?
Do you get no's to that? Like, are you down?
No, nobody ever does. Another thing I do too is like somebody comes in and like they don't know if they want to do sales or marketing. I'll do this. I'll say, well, this position is sales, and I'll convince them to do the sales job. And at the end of the interview, I'll say, well, let me. What if I told you we have this other marketing position that you might be a good fit for? Do you want to do that? Maybe would you want to do that? And if they say yes, I'm like, I'm not fucking hiring you. What you want to do? You know. Honestly, I would say even when you're a small startup, when you're trying to hire a co-founder, you need to put all your positions on a pedestal. In other words, I don't care if you're hiring a damn intern. You expect greatness from that intern. You don't think, oh, I'm not paying you, so no, you don't. Or you think if I'm paying you, or if it's like a person who's a senior person who's coming in to help you, oh, thank you so much for working for me. No, you put all your positions on a pedestal. You expect somebody to perform at a high level no matter what. And I think a lot of people don't do that, especially if you guys are trying to start your own businesses. Like, no. I always say this, right? You can't take on and off the Rockstar t-shirt is not reversible. You can't just flip that shit over and be like a normal person, right? You either are a rock star or you're not, right? So I always say, you take the job, you take the responsibility, period. Don't come into the office being braggadocious, trying to get a job, and then push it up to shove. You're gonna try to act like, you didn't know what the fuck was up. It's a startup, you know what I mean? Like, there's no instruction manual, dude. You need to write it. I tell people that, like, you know how you can take a vacation? Write a manual that explains how to do your job when you're gone, because nobody else knows right now. So that's it.
No, it's good. Anybody else have any questions right now? A lot, good. Go ahead,
Oh, yeah, my question was,
Magic.
stand up. Stand up and answer the question.
oh, sorry. My question was, functionally or aesthetically, what changes have kind of occurred since, if any, since you launched? I know you said more features.
In the product? Not enough. I was lucky, that's the word lucky, not smart, to have threaded the needle in terms of what people really needed, so that we've been able to not do too much product refreshing. Aesthetically, it hasn't changed much. Functionally, it's changed a lot. We checked off a lot of boxes in terms of features that customers needed. And now we're trying to get into things like, I'll give you one feature, we're getting into the idea of flirting with a company. So it's like apply, forward, and flirt. With the idea being, let's say if one of you guys is looking to work at my company, but you don't want to put yourself on Front Street, you can just click flirt, anonymously ask a question to us. Like, you could say the topic is engineering. That gets pushed out to one of our actual engineers. They answer it, you get the answer back. We don't know who you are. With the idea being, if you think about hiring, it's source, screen, interview, hire. That's the process of hiring. And we try to make each one of those areas of hiring easier and more innovative. And sourcing is a big thing that we're focusing on right now. How do I hire somebody in this room right now who doesn't want to tell me who they are and isn't going to work for my company a year and a half from now? How do I start that conversation? Because if we connect on LinkedIn, somebody's going to see that and think this guy's sniffing around. So we're trying to work on stuff like that. But
So you eat your own dog, but you use your own product.
yeah, and I think the funny thing is sometimes we don't, because you get busy, and then usually that hire didn't work out, and we're like, what the hell? We keep saying we should make a case study around that, like how we fucked up not using our own product.
Okay, so other questions? Go ahead.
How much design, how much web work do you still get to do on a day-to-day basis?
I don't want to do web design. No. One of the reasons why I quit design work was because, architects are awesome because an architect can say, I have a reputation, so I'm going to design this building, and you're going to like it or not, and we're going to tweak it together. Designers know you got to design one, and then because the statement of work says you got to design two more, you can design what you know is the right solution. You got to do two more just because it's in the statement of work, and then whenever they pick one of those, you're stuck designing it. I have stuff in my portfolio right now. No, that's not in my portfolio right now of awesome websites. Actually, one site I designed the Falling Water website, right? But there's other sites that I've designed that, no, because they didn't pick the right one. Nah, I don't want to design the one.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, a related question, actually. I've got a couple questions, I'll pick this one. So you said you do engineering product as well. So how do you balance the growth of the company? To engineer, you need introspective blocks of time.
Are you saying how do I do that? I don't. One of the saddest things is whenever you realize that if you're going to be the owner of the company, if you're going to be the CEO of the company, you can't do those things.
Right. The classic dichotomy is you either are developing, in which case, congratulations, you work for somebody else, or you're leading, in which case, congratulations, you're no longer a developer, you're retired from developing to be a manager. There's no middle ground for that. I've always been kind of curious.
I call it sounds great things. I think the way I kind of structure my week is I have 5 different teams. I call it 70-30. I spend 70% of my time focusing on one of those teams each day, and the other 30% is so other people can ping me if they need to. I'm probably most heavily involved in product right now and business development. And also, quite frankly, it is so amazing to walk into a room where people have built things and you had nothing to do with it. Like I love the fact that that if I conked out right now, Resumator would probably still be around. You know, like maybe some of the vision stuff isn't there, but you know, that's a great feeling. You know,
Thanks for nice. What do you mean?
Oh, sounds great, thanks.
Yeah.
Instead of me having to say like, well, this is wrong, let's do this is wrong, let's do this, if I just, you know, they're just telling me what's going on, or I call it sounds great, thanks, or looks great, thanks, and I just walk away. That's an awesome day for me. Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of like this, like, you know, once you get to the point, I mean, you deal with, at the size of 35 people or whatever we're at, we hired 5 people this week.
2 tonight, it seems.
Sure. You deal with people issues, you got holes in teams that you're trying to fill, there's all this kind of stuff. So, like, sitting down in front of the black screen and trying to, like, bang out a feature, nah. In fact, quite frankly, if your investors find out you're doing that, they're just going to say, like, you know, make a call. You're the one to run the company, be the figurehead. You kind of figurehead yourself after a while. Like, you got to be the person who's, like, evangelizing and pushing the vision. Which, I mean, literally, sometimes you feel like you know you're doing a lot of work, but you don't feel like you're contributing the way you want to contribute.
Yeah.
But you got to deal with it.
So,
There's another question back there?
Yeah.
Magic.
He asked why you didn't want to go to California, and you said it wasn't time. Do you think there ever will be a time, or what kept you in Pittsburgh? I guess is what's keeping you in Pittsburgh. I guess is what I'm asking.
I think you're making a mistake assuming that I'd go to just California. There's a lot of different places that a company can end up going. I don't think like that. I like to have as many options as possible, and I think if you're thinking about moving to California, for whatever reasons, and you have a business that doesn't seem to be, like, I think what we've always said is we don't ever want our location wherever it is to affect our growth. That's kind of the social contract we have with our investors, and I don't think it's affecting us right now. You know, I mean, I would say this, right? I mean, numbers drive everything, right? Numbers for my people, numbers for whatever, you know, like that's a big driver. But, you know, I like the idea that we have a black and gold heritage. You know, I think starting a company here is great because you're going to have an entire city supporting you, as opposed to, I'm telling you, go out to San Francisco and try to like make some noise. If you don't get into Y Combinator or whatever else, you're not going to make that much noise. Because I'm telling you, like in LA, every waiter has a script. Every waiter in San Francisco has a mobile app. You know, so yeah, everybody's a CTO with no experience.
All right, so one more question. Craig?
I mean, I could take, if you guys want to leave.
Yeah, let me after too.
Yeah.
I just want to respect everybody's time.
Yeah, sure. If you guys are doing.
Great.
Thanks for anchoring the shift here. It's been marvelous. I had a question about fundraising, maybe, and I think some entrepreneurs don't realize how much time you actually spend. Sometimes the perspective of being in the process even muddies those waters. Now that you've been through a few rounds, and you look back, can you maybe say what was the average time spent? It sounds like you were lucky to kind of be in
4 to 6 months
and bang out the process.
4 to 6 months.
And mostly involved. I mean,
And
70-30 rule. How much? 70, 80?
What do you mean?
Full time spent, like really.
Oh, full time.
Yeah.
Full time. Yeah, and the other thing about it too is like there's other things that are factored into that. Like you get real close with an investor, and then you get to the comfort zone when you start showing them your P&Ls and so forth. They know what your burn is. They might stretch that stuff out a little bit to try to put a little more pressure on you so they can work with your valuation. I mean, there's a lot of, honestly, a lot of like just like, you know, cat fighting, I think, when it comes to like raising money. Even whenever you like each other, you want to work together. You know, you want to see somebody turn. You want to see like a great guy turn. Start talking about the option pool whenever you're negotiating. You know, I think the best thing I ever said, because this is when I realized I had learned how this world works. Is somebody was trying to pitch me on the fact that the option pool should be 20%, and I said I think that's too much, and they said, well, you know, let's not worry about the option pool. It doesn't even matter right now. And I said, well, let's make it 0 then. Right? Let's make it doesn't matter. It's 0. I'm like, come on, of course. And then I started getting taken seriously. Like that meant a lot to me because I felt like, okay, I know how to negotiate this story now.
What? So you did this great pretty big for your seed round. You just raised 2.5 from a strategic investor, a great
A
lead.
little bit less than that.
Okay, 2.25. Okay.
Something like that.
And so what's next? What?
We're trying to we're trying to create an air of inevitability in terms of being the SMB HR solution. So that means like basically focusing on business development, trying to do OEM solutions for some partners, payroll service providers, you name it, to just try to basically be, we're going to try to block out anybody else who wants to try to enter the SMB market.
Okay.
If we can create an air of inevitability, we can try to find partnerships that allow us to get access to thousands of customers at
You have
one
no ability
time.
of owning the market, or are you being acquired?
No. If you wake up thinking about being acquired, you're probably not the type of person that builds a company to get acquired.
Right.
No, or you're really the type of person. Like there's people who have built a business and they'll say, hey, you think we should get acquired this year? Because they know like I got it like that, right? Nah, I think for me it's I think it's being bigger. Like we're looking for exponential growth. Like, I think that's the main thing. It's exponential growth and really trying to I don't think about it in terms of like my job in life isn't to hire people, but I think of it as like, we want to start trying to get up in the 100, 200 person range because we're just so big
Yeah.
in terms of business.
And your market can support that.
600,000 businesses
Yeah.
that we're targeting.
Okay. I know you give back a lot to the community, man. I see you out there. How can Resumator be more of an impact locally?
How can Resumator be more of an impact locally?
Yeah.
To create jobs and a company that I think strives to educate people on what it actually takes to take something from nothing to something. I think that's one of the things that I always tell people whenever they come to my company is you'll learn that because we're very transparent. Our financials are transparent. Like, how much money we have. We're not in the bank. We don't want to scare people all the time. Right? So like, you lost that much this month? Relax. People don't get that. No, but I mean like our revenue, things like that or whatever, where we're at in terms of our plan for the quarter. And I think a lot of people kind of feel like they have a better sense for what it takes to build a company.
So you've seen Pittsburgh startup community grow from, it's fledgling, I think it still is fledgling. It's made some long strides. What does it need and
what does it need?
Yeah.
I think it needs more people. It needs more. I think a couple of things. It needs more honesty with entrepreneurs about what it takes to actually get funded.
Yeah.
I think some of the crybaby-ishness around raising money, which I did too. I'm not trying to act like I was sitting around saying like I did a little bit of effort today. That some of that needs to be tamped down a little bit. I think that it's tough because like. Nobody in here would you'd be offended if somebody said, hey, you know what, let's pretend you have 10 grand and this year you have to give $1,000 to 10 different people, right? And I'm walking up to you saying like, I want you to give me you'd be offended, like, who the fuck are you? So it's like, I don't like telling investors how to spend their money. I just wish that there was a seed and angel community here that will be able to help companies play around a little bit, Like it doesn't make sense that somebody I know, Polly Burke, who has Thinktive upstairs, is like one of the first places to do that.
Yeah.
Alpha Lab's the second place. I think that's just unfortunate. So I think there's a lack of access to capital that I think is going to continue to drive people out of this area unless it gets fixed.
Yeah. Well, I'll take one more question, sure. And then you guys can talk to Don afterwards too, please.
So, one of my hypotheses about the startup community that we have in Pittsburgh is that a lot of the college students that we have here don't really realize that there are a lot of startup opportunities here. Would the Resumator be interested in creating some sort of ecosystem or?
Yes. Yeah. If like we have a great. I know what your question is. We have.
Magic, man.
We have the ability. We have the ability to aggregate subsets of jobs into one location. Like so, I'm a marketing person, so branding something around the idea of like there's a startup community in Pittsburgh. You need to know about it. There's great jobs here. You know, they're going to give you the foundation for creating your own startup, maybe here in Pittsburgh as well. I'd be interested in something like that.
Cool. Call me.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
See, everybody thought I was just, being presumptuous.
I knew you knew.
Anyway, give it up for Dawn, please. I just want to be respectful for the time. We're going to be doing this on a monthly basis, where we host CEOs that can talk to you about the cool shit that's going on. I am looking for content and ideas to put in this space. This will be a community resource, so you guys can use it. You can get it in Pittsburgh or just come up and see me. So thanks, guys.
If anybody wants to stay if you have questions, I'm happy to sit here.